Rain lashed the roof of St. Joseph's Medical Center in Charleston, South Carolina, a relentless gray shroud cloaking the city. Inside, three sharp cries tore through the delivery room's sterile hum. Three lives bursting forth. A boy and two girls, triplets, their voices raw with newness. Under flickering fluorescent lights, their rich, dark brown skin gleamed against the soft, white blankets swaddling them. Tiny fists waved, fragile but fierce, a fragile perfection etched in every wrinkle. Nurse Jenny Carter, her 20 years etched in steady hands, cradled the first girl, smiling as the baby's fingers curled tight. "Hey, little scrapper," she murmured, brushing a cheek warm with life. She passed the boy to a colleague, then lifted the second girl, their cries softening into a shared rhythm. This was her sanctuary birth, hope, the raw edge of beginnings. She turned to Thomas and Elizabeth Warren, the parents, her voice bright with routine joy. "Here they are, your babies." The room stilled, a cold, wrong hush swallowing the warmth. Elizabeth sat rigid on the bed, her hospital gown clinging damply, her pale face twisting as she stared at the triplets. Her breath snagged, a choked gasp slicing the quiet. Wide blue eyes flicked to Thomas, begging for an anchor, but he offered none. He stood by her side, broad and unyielding, his face bleaching white, hands balling into fists until his knuckles strained. He didn't step closer, didn't breathe, his gaze barely grazed them. "They're perfect," Jenny pressed, softer, holding the boy out. Elizabeth recoiled, hands jerking back like he'd scald her. She faltered, voice splintering. Her eyes darted to their dark skin, then to Thomas' frozen disbelief, and panic clawed her chest. "Tom," she whispered, a plea lost in the void. He gave nothing, his jaw clenched, a muscle twitching. Then he turned, boots slamming the linoleum with brutal thuds. The door banged shut behind him, a gunshot in the silence. Elizabeth's shoulders caved, tears spilling as she watched him go. For a fleeting second, her gaze drifted to the crib. Three tiny forms, helpless, hers. Her fingers brushed a small white sock on the blanket's edge, snatching it as if it burned. "I can't," she rasped, stumbling after him, the sock crushed in her fist. Jenny stood rooted, the boy's cries piercing her haze. She locked eyes with Sarah, the other nurse cradling the girls. "What the hell was that?" Sarah hissed, her voice tight with shock. Jenny couldn't answer, her throat locked. She'd seen fear, exhaustion, even despair in new parents. But this was different. This was rejection, cold and deliberate, a blade through the heart of innocence. She eased the boy into the crib beside his sisters, their hands fumbling, finding each other, clinging. "Someone's coming for you," she whispered, her voice thick, fighting the ache. "Someone has to." Outside, the rain pounded, a gray tide swallowing the world. Inside, three lives teetered abandoned in their first moments, their cries unanswered. What could drive a mother to flee her own blood? What terror could sever that bond before it began? And who would dare step into the wreckage left behind? Rain pounded relentlessly against the windows of St. Joseph's Medical Center as Thomas and Elizabeth Warren stepped into the administrative wing, the sterile glare of fluorescent lights bleaching their shadows. Elizabeth slumped into a hard plastic chair, her hospital gown sodden, clinging to her trembling frame. Her fingers twisted a tiny white sock, the one she'd snatched from the Krivets. Softness, a cruel echo of the lives she'd left behind. Her breath hitched, uneven, her knuckles whitening with every twist. Thomas stood rigid by the door, arms crossed tight, his eyes tracing cracks in the linoleum like they could swallow the chaos in his head. Ms. Linda Hayes, the social worker, slid a stack of papers across the desk, her voice steady but laced with unease. "These are the relinquishment forms," she said, pointing to the signature lines. "Once you sign, it's done. You can take a day if you need no." Thomas snapped, his tone jagged as broken glass. He lunged forward, snatching the pen from her hand, and scrawled his name, Thomas J. Warren, in harsh, slashing strokes, ink bleeding into the page. His jaw locked, memories of his father's fists flashing. "You're not enough like me, boy," the old man had growled, leather belt cracking. "They can't be mine," he muttered, louder, as if the words could bury the doubt clawing his gut. He shoved the pen at Elizabeth, his gaze still averted. "Sign it." Elizabeth's hand shook, the sock pressed against her thigh. She'd felt them, those piercing cries, that primal tug when she'd seen their dark faces. But Tomas's silence had crushed it flat. Through the office window, she glimpsed the nursery down the hall, three tiny forms in a crib, and her chest caved. "I can't keep them," she whispered. Voice splintering, barely audible over the rain's drone. Tears blurred the paper as she scratched her name. Elizabeth A. Warren in a wobbly, broken scrawl. She stuffed the sock into her pocket, a secret weight, and let the pen clatter to the desk, her hands falling limp. Ms. Hayes watched, lips pressed thin, gathering the forms into a folder. "That's it," she said, quiet but heavy. "They'll go into the system now. Healthy babies, someone will take them." Her eyes flicked to Elizabeth's pocket, lingering. "You're sure?" Thomas didn't answer. He grabbed his jacket from the chair, boots slamming the tile as he stormed out, the sound echoing like a judge's gavel. Elizabeth stumbled after him, the sock a hidden burden dragging her down, her shoulders hunched as if chained. She didn't glance back, not at the office, not at the hallway stretching toward the nursery, not at the lavage shed severed with trembling ink. Back in the delivery room, Jenny Carter hovered over the crib, the triplets, whimpers fading into soft, desperate breaths. She'd named them in her head Caleb, Chloe, nigh because no one else had stepped up. They lay side by side, tiny hands brushing, seeking each other in the emptiness. "You've got each other now," she murmured, tucking the blanket tighter, her throat raw with an ache she couldn't shake. She'd seen parents falter before addicts, kids too young, but this was different. A cold, deliberate cut, sharper than despair. Sarah, her colleague, stood beside her, arms crossed tight. "What kind of people walk away like that?" she asked, voice low, edged with disbelief. "They didn't even touch them." Jenny shook her head, eyes locked on the babies. "I don't know," she said, barely above a whisper. "But someone's got to come for them. They deserve more than this." The rain outside drummed on, a gray curtain sealing the world shut. In that crib, three little souls held fast, nameless, cast aside but not yet broken. The Warrens had fled, their signatures a final mark of rejection, but the story wasn't over. Someone somewhere would see what they couldn't. The drizzle clung to Somerville, 20 miles north of Charleston, as whispers of the abandoned triplets seeped beyond St. Joseph's walls. In a cluttered garage, David Turner hunched over a Chevy engine, the sharp tang of oil and steel steadying his calloused hands. At 42, he carried the weight of a fractured past. His dad lost to a wreck when David was 16. After a week's absence punctuated by a snarled, "You're not worth keeping." That sting had driven him to swear no kid would feel such a void, but years with Naomi yielded only silent rooms and barren hopes. Twisting a bolt, he wondered if he could ever fill that gap. Across town, Naomi Turner sat in her classroom, red pen poised over third-grade spelling tests, her warm brown eyes tracing each messy loop. At 38, she dreamed of a home alive with little voices, but the doctor's shrugs and her own fear had crushed it. Once, she turned down a foster boy, afraid her heart couldn't stretch far enough, and the regret still gnawed her bones. That afternoon, a colleague's hushed story of 3 babies left behind jolted her awake. She sped home, tires hissing on wet asphalt, her pulse racing with a chance she couldn't let slip. She burst into the garage, breathless, voice trembling but fierce. "David, 3 babies, triplets at St. Joseph's. Their parents walked away, signed them off like trash." Her gaze locked his, steady and urgent. "They're alone, and this isn't random, it's us. Are you with me?" David set his wrench down, grease smearing his jeans. His father's shadow loomed those empty days, that final crash, and the old ache flared. "I swore no kid would feel tossed out like I did," he said, voice low, rough with memory. "3's a hell of a leap, but I've got to be more than he was." His eyes met hers, a quiet fire igniting. Naomi stepped closer, her breath catching. "I ran once, said no to a kid years back, scared I couldn't love him right. I've carried that too long." Her hand seized his, firm. "They need us, David, and we need them. This is our shot." Morning broke gray as they stood in the hospital nursery, drizzle tapping the windows like a faint pulse. Nurse Jenny Carter ushered them in, her face softening from the strain of that rain-soaked night. "They've been like this since they got here," she said, nodding at the crib. Won't calm unless they're touching. She'd watched those parents flee Elizabeth with that sock, Thomas with his cold fury, and the ache lingered. They deserve better, she murmured, almost to herself. David and Naomi peered down. The boy lay centered, steady as stone, a quiet guardian. One girl curled close, her sigh soft and seeking. The other pressed tight, fierce even in sleep, her fist clenched. Their dark skins shone under the lights, hands brushing in a bond forged from the start. Naomi's fingers trembled as she touched the boy's cheek. "Caleb," she whispered, "our protector." She moved to the first girl. Chloe Orlight. Then the second. Nia, our warrior. Tears welled, spilling free. She saw that lost foster boy in them, and this was her redemption. "They're ours, David," she said, voice breaking with certainty. David's throat tightened. He saw his father's absence, but a chance to rewrite it burned brighter. "All three," he said, his tone rough but unyielding. "No splitting them up. We give them more than I ever had, everything." His hands clenched, resolve hardening. Jenny's smile cracked through, genuine now. "He'll get the papers going," she said, stepping back. They left hand in hand, the drizzle a faint hiss outside. "We're building something," Naomi said, her grip firm. David nodded, squeezing back. Something solid, unbreakable. Caleb, Chloe, and Nia were coming home. The Warrens had left them in the rain, but David and Naomi stood ready, a new dawn breaking through the storm. Years spun the Turner house in Somerville into a vibrant chaos, its backyard a proving ground for Caleb, Chloe, and Nia. Caleb, steady and quiet, patched up bikes with hands that mirrored David's in the garage, his focus a silent strength. Chloe's sharp mind devoured books, her questions tumbling out faster than Naomi could catch, a spark that refused to dim. Nia tore across the grass, outrunning anyone who dared, her bold grin a dare to the world. David taught Caleb the rhythm of engines. Naomi wove tales of chosen warriors that glowed in the kids' eyes together. They'd built a sanctuary against the storm that had birthed them. But the world outside gnawed at the edges. It crept in at Somerville Elementary, slicing through playground chatter with cruel precision. A boy jabbed a finger at Chloe during recess, voice loud. "Why don't you look like your mom?" She clutched her book, spine stiffening. "She is my mom," she shot back. But her words wavered, and the stares clung like damp rot. Caleb overheard kids muttering adopted, right? Each syllable prickling his skin, a quiet sting he couldn't shake. Nia faced a girl's sneer after a race, not a real Turner, and her fists curled, only Caleb's grip holding her back. The questions trailed them home, heavy as wet earth. One night, Chloe perched on the couch, her dark eyes boring into David's. "Why don't I look like you, Dad?" she asked, voice soft, brittle with fear. David's chest seized, his father's not worth keeping, echoed, those empty days before the wreck flashing. He knelt, rough hands framing her face. "My dad walked out once, said I wasn't enough. I swore no kid of mine would feel that," he said low and fierce. "You're mine, Chloe, right here." He tapped his heart, but her gaze lingered, shadowed with doubt he couldn't lift. Naomi felt the weight too. Nia stormed in one day, cheeks streaked, voice cracking. "They're wrong, right, Mom?" Naomi pulled her close, arms a fortress. "They don't see my warrior tougher than them all," she said, steady as stone. Those tales shed spun since the nursery were her shield, but later, alone with David, she twisted her shirt, echoing Elizabeth's nervous grip on that sock, and whispered, "I ran from being a mom, once thought I wasn't enough." "What if they think that now?" David's jaw tightened, his hand on hers. "They won't. I felt Dad leave too, cut deep." "We're not them," he said, voice rough. He'd faced it himself at the hardware store, a guy smirking. "Those kids yours, Turner." His wrench had slammed the counter, his answer steel. Damn right. No one got an explanation, but the weight stuck, a quiet bruise. The triplets carved their defiance. Caleb strummed an old guitar David fixed, chords heavy with unspoken ache. Chloe scrawled in her journal, lines biting. "If family's not blood, why do they keep staring?" Nia pounded the track, sneakers blurring. Each lap a proof she didn't need words for. But as teens, the whispers sharpened, neighbors' eyes lingering, strangers' voices prying. "Adopted," they'd mutter. "A stain. Different. A judgment." One dusk, Caleb sat in the garage, hands on a busted carburetor. They think I don't belong, he said, voice low, finger steady. David crouched beside him, oil-stained hands mirroring his son's. My dad thought I didn't left me to prove it. You belong here, Caleb, 'cause I say you do, he said firm. Caleb's grip tightened, mind turning. Naomi watched from the doorway, heart twisting. She'd faced her fear, built this life from that rainy choice, but the world kept clawing. They're growing too fast, she told David that night, voice soft. They're asking about who walked away. He pulled her close, breath warm. Well, stand with them, whatever they dig up. The shadows loomed thicker, but the Turners held roots deep, ready for the reckoning ahead. 18 years hammered the Turner house into a fortress of sound and spirit, Caleb's guitar riffs vibrating through Somerville nights, Chloe's essays stacking accolades, Naya's track medals glinting like forged steel. The backyard battles had grown into triumphs, each triplet carving a path. Caleb's quiet strength strumming at open mics, Chloe's fierce intellect cracking open futures, Naya's speed defying gravity itself. David and Naomi anchored at a lengine grease on their hands, warrior tales in their voices, but the world's whispers from those early playground days had burrowed deep in the questions they dodged as kids clawed their way out. It shattered over dinner, the kitchen thick with cornbread's warmth and chicken's sizzle. Chloe slammed her fork down, her voice a razor through the chatter. If we don't know who they are, how do we know who we are? Caleb lowered his glass, steady but blazing. I need to see their faces ask why they left. Naya smashed her fist on the table, rattling plates. They owe us the truth, we're not little anymore. David's chest thudded, his father's not worth keeping ringing from those empty teen years. He'd felt this brewing since Caleb's garage confession, but it still stung. You sure, he asked, voice rough, low. This could hit harder than you think. Naomi seized Naya's hand, her eyes wet but unyielding. Whatever you find, we're yours always. If you need this, we're right here. Their resolve fused, a silent pact in their locked gazes. Chloe dove in, her mind honed from years of books and journals, fingers tearing through public records online. Thomas and Elizabeth Warren, she declared, thrusting a printout forward. Charleston's still there. Caleb dialed a law contact from a school project, his tone calm, unshakable. Nia scrawled a letter, her pen slashing. We're your kids. Meet us or we're coming. David scanned it, adding in steady ink. They deserve your answers. Naomi mailed it, hands firm despite the tremor inside. She'd fled fear once, but not today. Weeks stretched taut, the house a coil of tension. David banged tools in the garage, his voice tight to Naomi that night. If they want those people back, I don't know. I saw Dad walk out, felt that hole. I can't trap them, but losing them? He trailed off, wrench clanking. She sat up fierce. I ran from a kid once thought I wasn't enough. We are now, David, but they've got to face this. We let them go to hold them. The reply landed Saturday noon, and the air crackled. The drive to Charleston hummed silent, David's truck cutting through damp roads, Naomi's hand steady on his arm. They pulled up to a weathered house paint flaking, porch sagging. Thomas Warren opened the door, older, his face a cold mask. Elizabeth hovered behind, eyes red, clutching that wooden box like a lifeline. No words, just a thick, suffocating stillness. Caleb stepped forward, voice heavy, loaded. Why'd you leave us? Thomas turned aside, jaw tight. Couldn't take what didn't look like me, he said, flat, bitter. Elizabeth's voice splintered. I was terrified of the stares, the questions. We thought it'd destroy us. Naya's glare burned. So you destroyed us. We were babies. Chloe's hands shook, her tone steel. You let fear win over us. David moved in, voice a growl. You ran, I taught them to stand. My dad left me. I stayed. Naomi's eyes cut Elizabeth. I feared too once. I fought for them. You didn't. Thomas' shoulders slumped, silent. Elizabeth's tears fell, fingers digging into the box. We were weak, she rasped. We chose wrong. The triplets stood tall, pulses racing. Caleb thought, they didn't break me, they broke themselves. Chloe saw it. Their fear, their cage. Naya clenched her fists. They're nothing. But the air hung unfinished. Elizabeth shoved the box forward, trembling. There's more you need to know, she said. The Warrens' living room reeked of dust and regret, dim light clawing through cracked blinds, the air heavy as a held breath. Caleb, Chloe, and Naya stood shoulder to shoulder, a wall of fire facing Elizabeth as she shoved the wooden box across the scratched table, her hands quaking. There's more you need to know, she rasped, tears carving her pale cheeks, fingers brushing that tiny sock she'd clung to since that rainy night. Thomas slumped against the wall, broad frame sagging, eyes locked on the floor, a man buckling under his own ruin. Chloe lunged forward, ripping the lid off yellowed letters, Polaroids, and a blank birth certificate spilled out in a chaotic heap. She snatched a photo. Elizabeth, young and laughing, arm in arm with a dark-skinned man, his eyes blazing like Neas. Caleb's breath snagged, sharp. Naya's fists tightened, nails biting skin. Chloe unfolded a letter, her voice a knife through the stillness. Liz, it'll come back. Keep our secret, Jay. Elizabeth's sob erupted, ragged and loud. Thomas isn't your father, she choked, clutching the sock like it could anchor her. James, before we married, I didn't know till after. I saw him in you and Thomas. Her words drowned in tears, eyes darting to him. Thomas smashed his fist on the table, wood splintering under the blow. 18 years with your damn lie, he bellowed, face contorted. My dad beat me bloody 'cause I wasn't him. I told her to ditch you. I wasn't raising some bastard's kids. People would have shredded us. His voice cracked, rage bleeding into shame, hands trembling as memory choked him. The room blazed. Caleb strode forward, voice low, lethal. You're not my father, and I'm damn glad. He loomed over Thomas, unflinching. Chloe seized the photo, tearing it with a vicious rip, flinging the halves at Elizabeth's feet. You erased us for your pride, she spat, eyes ice. Nia grabbed the box, hurling it to the floor, paper scattered, the sock tumbling free. We were helpless, she snarled, and you picked yourselves. David surged in, seizing Thomas' shoulder, his grip steel. My dad left me feeling worthless. You tossed them 'cause you're too weak to face it. I gave them what you never could. Thomas shoved back, but David held fast, growling, You're no man. Naomi stepped to Elizabeth, pulling that sock from her own pocket, taken from the wreckage, and pressed it into her shaking hand, letting go. I kept this from the start, she said, voice steady, fierce. I feared I wasn't enough, then chose them. You ran. Elizabeth collapsed, sock crushed in her fist, cries tearing free. I wanted you, she gasped. I kept this, but I wasn't strong. I let him choose. Thomas' hands shook, voice hollow. We messed up. I saw my dad in you, couldn't take it. The triplets stood unbroken. Caleb's words sliced, final. We thought we weren't enough, you were too shattered to see us. Chloe glared, unyielding. You lived a lie, you built truth. Nia kicked the strewn papers, her laugh sharp, cold. You lost us, we're stronger without you. They turned as one, a unit forged in fire. David's hand steadied Caleb's back. My sonal ways, he said, rough. Naomi pulled Chloe and Nia tight. My warriors forever, she whispered. Elizabeth's sobs chased them, a broken wail while Thomas stood frozen, a husk amid the chaos. Sunlight pierced the clouds outside, bathing the street in gold. Caleb climbed into the truck, shoulders easing. We're not their mess, he said, voice light. Chloe squeezed his hand firm. We've got everything. Naya grinned, fierce. They're nothing, we're Turners. David cranked the engine, glancing at Naomi. They're tougher than we ever were, he said, pride edging his tone. She nodded, tears glinting. We showed them how. The Warrens' house faded in the dust. A ghost burned out. The truth had struck like lightning, fierce and unforgiving, but it didn't break them. It set them soaring. The truck rumbled back to Somerville under a sky ablaze with orange and pink, a quiet triumph pulsing through the Turners. Caleb tapped a rhythm on his knee, his face soft, unburdened for the first time in years. Chloe cradled her journal, a faint smile breaking her focus, ink-stained fingers still. Nia sprawled against the door, eyes half closed, a deep calm settling into her bones. David gripped the wheel, steady as bedrock, while Naomi's hand rested on his arm, her heart swelling with a warmth that defied words. Home erupted into life. Caleb poured the storm of Charleston into enough. his guitar ringing out at local gigs, each note turning pain into power, crowds swaying to his quiet fire. Chloe's pen danced, her book raw, unapologetics nagging a journalism slot in Atlanta. Her words a lifeline for anyone lost in shadows. Nia blazed the track, her latest gold medal flashing as she roared, "Turner for life," to a thundering crowd. Whispers and stares bounced off them now, dust on steel they'd forged something the world couldn't dent. David grew the garage, Caleb's hands beside his, their laughter clanking with Tulsa legacy his father's absence never touched. Naomi's Warriors. 3 flew off shelves, a slim book weaving their tale into kids' hearts, proving families built, not born. They'd turned that rainy choice into a beacon, unshakable against time. Graduation crowned it. Somerville High's stadium alive with cheers as Caleb, Chloe, and Nia strode the stage, caps soaring, grins wide. David stood in the bleachers, arm around Naomi, tears cutting through his weathered face. "They're everything I swore to keep," he said, voice thick, echoing his vow against his dad's ghost. Naomi squeezed his hand, eyes shining. "We chose them. David every damn day." Dinner brimmed with fried chicken, cornbread, and sweet tea, the kitchen table groaning under their ritual. Nia mimed her gown stumble. Caleb teased her off-key victory yell. Chloe fired back about his grease-smeared caplauder bounced, free and loud. David raised his glass, gaze sweeping them. "You 3 love beats blood, beats fear, beats it all," he said, rough with pride. "We're a family cause, we fought for it." Naomi smiled, soft but fierce. "My warriors," she said, her tales from those early nights alive in their eyes. "I choose you 1,000 times." Caleb clinked his glass. "Thanks for picking us up," he said, light but deep. Chloe leaned forward. "We're enough cause of you," she said, steady. Nia grinned, glass high. Turner stove as hell, twice as real. Cheers erupted, glasses clashing like a forged bond. Later, stars studded the sky as they sprawled on the porch, David and Naomi on the swing, the triplets on the steps. Naomi reached into her pocket, pulling a creased envelope. "This came today," she said, voice calm. "From James your Chloe's book," caught his eye. Caleb unfolded it, reading tight script. "I didn't know you existed. Proud you're stronger than me, James." He stared, then handed it to David. "Burn it, Dad," he said, a smile tugging his lips. "We don't need him." David nodded, striking a match. The flame licked the paper, curling it to ash as Naomi, Chloe, and Nia watched, eyes glinting in the firelight. Nia leapt up, fists raised. "Turner forever," she shouted, her voice slicing the night. Smoke twisted upward, the past dissolving in a final cleansing glow. They'd faced it all, rain-soaked rejection, playground taunts, a truth that could broken them. But they'd chosen each other, built a family stronger than blood, fierce enough to let go of what didn't fit. Love wasn't who birthed you, it was who stayed, who fought, who burned the bridges that led nowhere. They weren't just enough, they were unstoppable. A flame no storm could douse. This story hits hard with a simple truth. Family isn't about who brings you into this world, it's about who chooses to stick by you through the rain, the judgment, the whole damn mess. Caleb, Chloe, and Nia didn't need blood to know where they belonged. They had David and Naomi, who fought to keep them, and a fire that burned the past to prove it. Life's gonna test you, but your worth isn't in where you started, it's in the people you choose to love and the strength you find to let go of what doesn't deserve you. You don't have to be enough for everyone, just for those who truly see you. If this journey moved you, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. Drop a comment below. What does family mean to you?